Hi everyone, my name is Emma Kugel and I'm going to be talking about how to use and create videos for patient education. So here's a broad overview of what you can expect in this presentation. I'm going to touch upon a number of different things, so you can use this as a resource to look back at for wherever you are with video projects. So I'm going to talk about why video is a unique content form, how video promotes health equity, the secret to a strong video, how to evaluate what should be a video, what is a video distribution plan, video creation options in the production process, video mindsets to embrace and avoid, tips for working with subject matter experts, and how to grow your video skills. So let's jump into why video is a unique content form. First, video can be an excellent tool for visual learners. Video allows you to use illustrations, graphics, photos, animations, footage, and other visuals to explain things to visual learners in a way that text and other content forms can't. Video can also be engaging. There's something about looking at a screen in general that seems to get people's attention. And for video, when you combine different visuals, text, animations, and movements into a video, it can be really compelling to watch and get people's attention. And if you do it right, also keep their attention. Lastly, video is a great narrative or storytelling tool. It can evoke emotion better than other content forms, again, through its use of so many elements, such as visuals, audio, music, and sometimes text. In general, if your goal is to evoke audience emotions through your content, video is a great option for that. One of the key ways video promotes health equity is that it creates greater accessibility to medical information. Now, this happens in two ways. First, videos can be distributed more widely and publicly and on platforms that many people access, such as if the video is posted on YouTube. If you do this, suddenly not only your patients can view your content, but people around the world can see and potentially learn from your content as well. Second, visuals in general can also make information more accessible, especially if the visuals are universal or can be understood by diverse populations. Compared to written content, where you have to know a specific language and also have literacy at a certain level, video content can help break those barriers through the use of visuals. So what's the secret to a strong video? One of the big secrets to a strong video is show, don't tell. This means illustrating what you're talking about through visuals. Don't just tell someone the information through text or someone talking at them. For instance, if you're watching an educational documentary, say it's about the Egyptian pyramids, you might see clips of some interviews with subject matter experts, but they'll be constantly cutting away to visuals in the documentary to show you what they're talking about. So you're likely going to see very little of the people they're interviewing because people want to watch what you're talking about. People want to be able to visualize things when they watch a video. Sometimes you might create a video that is more of a telling video with more text or someone talking to the audience. There can be good reason and purpose for these videos. However, the strongest videos are the ones that show, don't tell. These videos will likely get the most views, the most usage by patients, and potentially the general public as well if the content is posted on YouTube. You know, it's the videos that take advantage of what video has to offer as a content form that will likely be your best videos. And again, these are the videos that show information through things like footage, animation, illustration, and graphics. So at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center, we've seen that the show don't tell strategy works. Our videos that get the most views and usage all use this strategy. On our YouTube page, our top 3 videos are how-to demonstrations, with our #1 video having over 141,000 views. Out of our top 10 videos, 7 out of the 10 videos are heavily visual. So the show don't tell strategy has generally held true for the content we've put out over the years. So how to evaluate what should be a video? If you receive requests for video projects or are figuring out what projects you want to work on, you should use strategy to evaluate what should be a video. Not every idea should become a video. Some content just isn't a good fit for the video content form. Video also takes a lot of time and potentially money compared to other content forms. So ideally, you want to put in the work on videos that are likely to get high usage. So let's go over how you evaluate a video idea. The first thing to think about is how big the target audience is for the project. Generally, the larger the better. If you have a small team doing video or even just one person, creating a video for a larger audience is usually a better use of your time. Another important evaluation tool is to look at previous videos you've created. What's gotten the most usage? What's gotten the most views? What gets the least views? You might want to tailor your video program so that you're creating videos that get the most usage. You can also talk to or survey patients about what they say would be most helpful for them. What would they want to watch? Where do they see a need? If you have patient advisors or a patient advisory committee, they could be a great resource to reach out to for patient input. Next, evaluate the visual potential for the project. What's the show don't tell ratio of the project? Ask the video requester for content that you would create the video script from and kind of go through it and see what type of visual potential there is. Can you capture footage, create illustrations, animations, use photos, graphics? If it's looking like this project may be more tell than show, dig more into why the requester is specifically asking for a video and what they're hoping to get out of a video. Consider how the video will offer something new or better than other content forms. Again, this is important. You don't essentially want a repeat of other content forms with the video, since video is best used as a visual form. Next, consider whether the video will appeal to visual learners and increase comprehension. This is really important because we want the answer to be yes. If you're asked to create a video based on written content, can you simplify the content? In transforming written content into a video, you often don't want a direct word-for-word match. Video scripts often need to be simplified even more. Things can sound very different when they're read out loud. So if you're going to have voiceover or audio, that's something you have to think about. You'll want to simplify and possibly reorganize some of the content as well. You want to make sure you can do this and that the requesters are open to doing this as well. Now, in general, it's very common to get requests for videos where the requester might want a video, but hasn't fully thought through why they think a video would be useful, or if video is the best form for the content they're thinking about. Video can be seen as a solution to things, but as I've said, it's not always the best solution. Use these evaluation tips to help figure out if video is the right solution to this problem or need. And if you can, prioritize projects that are the best fit for video. So I want to talk briefly now about video distribution plans, which can be part of the video idea evaluation process as well. A video distribution plan is where your video content will be posted and how it will reach your audience. You want to start thinking about this and having conversations about this plan before you start a video project. Just because a video is posted on your website or YouTube doesn't actually mean it will reach your audience or be highly used. You have to figure out how it's going to be integrated into a larger campaign or patient care, if that's your goal. So here are some questions to ask yourself and the video requester before starting the project. First, how will the video be used? For instance, is it directions on how to do something like change a dressing, and is the requester hoping to integrate the video in patient care? If that's the case, you should talk about how the video will be integrated into patient care from the start. How will staff know about and access the video? You really want to avoid creating videos that no one knows about or uses. So discuss how staff will know about and access the video. Next, how will patients learn about the video? If their care team recommends the video during their appointment, How will they be able to remember the video at home? How will they be able to access the video at home? You'll want to make this as easy as possible for patients and staff. To help start these conversations at the beginning stages of the video project, you can consider creating a request form specifically for videos. On this form, you can ask these questions on the slide here. If the person submitting doesn't know the answers, you can work together to try and find or figure out the answers. Now, the answers to these questions could also impact whether you decide to make the video. If there isn't a clear plan for the video, you may want to hold off on starting the project. If there is a plan, then great. Also take note of what happens with the videos you create. Look at analytics if you can, check in with the video requester a few months down the line, and see if and how the video is being used. Doing this can help with future video project distribution, planning, and priorities. So what are some ideas for videos that show, don't tell? First are how-to demonstration videos. For instance, how to clean your central line. These videos offer step-by-step information that patients can follow along with. Maybe it could be something like how to do physical therapy exercises or how to use Zoom for a telehealth appointment. This type of video is using video's visual strengths, which is great. Process videos can also be a great fit for video, such as what's the process for getting an MRI? What's the process that patients can expect from, entering the medical building to leaving? What's the process for radiation treatment? Think about how you could show these things visually. Explanation videos might explain a diagnosis, surgery, procedure, a piece of medical equipment. Maybe these videos would use things like illustration and animations. So I'd also like to say just a quick thing about animation. If you have options to use animation or customized medical illustration, that can really open up your options for creating content in the video form. So things that otherwise maybe wouldn't be visual can suddenly become visual if you have animation, or things that could be hard to film or just wouldn't look as good filming can be better done through animation. So animation is a really great tool to look into. Now I'm going to shift into an overview of how video production works. If you're going to work on a video project, there are different ways you can go about it. How you decide the way you make the video could depend on preference, money, time, and organizational policies. The first option is, of course, to create the video yourself. This might mean you need to purchase video equipment. If you haven't done video before, then you may also have to do some learning. Next, you can look into collaborating with your organization's marketing or communications colleagues, or getting ideas from them at the very least. See how they create videos. Do they have people in-house who make videos? Do they work with certain vendors or freelancers? Is there someone who does something like videography for the organization and maybe they'd be able to work with you? Another option is hiring a vendor. By vendors, I'm referring to video production companies that you can hire. This is probably the most expensive option. And often if you go this route, you may work with the production company on the entire project. So that means from scripting to shooting to animation to editing. When deciding on a production company, see if they've worked on similar projects as yours. Do they have other healthcare clients? It's always good to look at a few vendor options so you can compare and get different feels. You can also work with freelancers. You can do this in a few ways. You can hire someone just to film, just to edit, just to do voiceover. You could also hire a freelancer to do the entire project. To find video freelancers, you can do something like Google video producer your city, like wherever you live or work. You can also look into professional organizations for video people in your area, and you can reach out to those organizations and see if they'll post a proposal about your project on the listserv that they send out to video professionals. And finally, university students might be an option. Students can do really good work, and it's still important to provide financial compensation since you're still utilizing someone's skills, whether they're in school or not. And sometimes students can do better work than a freelancer or a vendor that you hire. University film programs or communication programs often have listservs for their students where they post opportunities. So you can contact the department with your project and see if they'll send it out on their listserv. If you're working with other people on a video project, they might be filming, editing, writing, whatever it might be, it's really important that you still be very involved in this project. Artistic collaborators, marketing, other communication professionals, they likely will not know much about health literacy. And health literacy best practices could impact editing decisions, how things are filmed, how someone speaks on camera or does voiceover. So remember, you'll likely be the health literacy expert on the project, and it's your role to make sure everyone else is following the best practices. So here's just some basic information about common video equipment and tools. So in pre-production, you can really use Microsoft programs, Word for writing a script, Excel if you're doing timelines or a budget. You can use PowerPoint if you're going to do storyboarding. For production, you need a camera. SD cards are what you put in the camera to record the video. A tripod is what you put a camera on. You'll want audio, most likely if you're going to be recording sound, a good pair of headphones, lights. If you're going to have anyone speaking on camera, I highly suggest getting a teleprompter. So a teleprompter is a tool where the script is scrolled in front of the camera lens. And this is what they use on the news when when it looks like the anchors are talking to the camera, politicians when they're talking to the camera. And so your speaker can read the script and not have to memorize anything. And that is a whole lot easier for the person who's on camera. Now for post-production, which is editing, you will need an editing program, editing computer, an SD card converter so that you can transfer the video files onto your computer. You'll also want a good pair of headphones for that, and you can often use those headphones for production and post-production, so use the same ones. And then you'll also want an external hard drive to save or back things up. So there are a lot of elements that can go into videos, and we've talked about some of these already. And these elements and the variety that there is really makes video have so much potential as a content form. It can also make video so much more complex as a content form too, because there's just a lot of elements that you might be using in a project. So that's time, it's potentially money, and it's potentially working with a lot more people too. So to quickly go over the elements, the speaker interview footage, B-roll footage, that's the footage where there isn't anyone on camera, but it's what is illustrating it's what's illustrating what is being talked about in the video. Animation, motion graphics, illustration, images, text, music, sound effects, and voiceover. So what is the video production process? There are generally 3 stages to the video project process. The first stage is pre-production, and I'll be going into more of the specifics about each stage shortly. But pre-production is all of the project planning and prep, and also scripting. The next stage is production. This is where you film or animate. And the final stage is post-production, where you edit and finish the project. You can see that these 3 parts of the process are different colors and different sizes. This is to give you an idea of how much time often goes into each part of the process. Pre-production should often be the biggest and longest part of the project because that's where you're planning and preparing everything. Production is often the shortest part of the project, but still very important. And post-production is kind of in the middle. It takes time for sure, but the time can really range on a lot of different factors. And to give you some perspective, so like a 2 to 3 minute video can range from 10 to 60 hours of work. It really depends on what elements are in the video, what resources are available to you, and the general complexity of a project. So here are some more details about what often happens in pre-production. So as I said, this is where you'll do a lot of the planning, coordination, and scripting. So you'll think about how are you going to create the video? What are the roles of people involved in the project? Who needs to review the video? What's your project timeline? What resources, tools do you need to get the project done? You'll also want to create and organize your project folders and just get really organized in general. Getting organized from the start in video and even other types of projects, it just helps prevent any headaches later on. So it also is helpful if someone else has to access your project. They'll know exactly the files and the folders that they'll need to go into. Pre-production also includes actually working on the project. So you'll want to gather content, create a project timeline and process for collaborators, and I'll share more about this later. You'll write and revise the script. So that includes planning the audio and the visuals. And you can create and review any storyboards. Storyboards are a bit more optional, but they can be really helpful because they essentially break down your script shot by shot and visualize every shot before you go and film. You'll also want to plan the shoot in pre-production. Figure out where you're going to film. Visit the location beforehand. If you're going to be recording sound, figure out what the audio situation is before you choose that spot. Figure out what equipment you will need. Create a shot list before your shoot. This is super important. This is a list of every single shot you want to capture during the shoot. This will help you stay organized and help you get what you need while filming. You'll also want to create a shoot schedule. How long will the shoot take? What order do you want to film things? So these are all things you want to think about before filming. You'll also want to select on-camera talent if you have any. You can get started planning illustrations or stock images. You'll also want to do as much reviewing, approvals, and permissions at this stage of the game. So if you need permission for where you're filming, if you need various people to look over the script and get approval, do it before you film and get into editing. So in production, this is where you film your project. So you'll have your shot list with you, your filming schedule, and the script as well. And so you're going to film the footage. You might have an on-camera speaker, interviews, B-roll. You'll also record voiceover during this time as well, if you'll be using voiceover. Once you're done filming, you get into post-production, which is editing. So you'll load your footage onto your computer or an external hard drive. You'll review and compile and start to edit the video and also any other visual assets like stock images or motion graphics. You'll also do some color correction and audio correction potentially. If applicable to your project, you may work with an illustrator on graphics. This is something that you can also potentially start earlier in the process as well. You'll select and add any music, sound effects, and voiceover. And you'll also want to get any final reviews and approvals of the video, and then upload and deliver your video. So I wanted to share 3 mindsets to embrace for video work. First, make things as easy as possible for other people working on your project. So examples of this include, for a shoot, have all of the equipment ready before your on-camera person arrives. Or if you're working with your videographer, send the videographer an on-camera person scripts beforehand, so before the shoot, so they know what to expect. It can be hard to grasp the complexities of video production, so always work to set clear expectations and over-communicate. Next, kind of similarly, plan as much as you can. Video can be a lot of problem solving and sometimes unpredictable, so do your best to foresee and eliminate as many problems as possible. This could look like building an extra time for a project, making a list of supplies you'll need for filming before filming day. And so get those supplies ready beforehand and test them, make sure they work. The same goes with your equipment, test that beforehand. Doing a detailed shot list before a shoot also helps you be able to focus on getting the right footage, so you're not trying to remember what you need while filming. Of course, there's only so much you can control sometimes, but being proactive will be really helpful. And finally, use internal resources when possible. If you have a tight budget and can't hire outside help on videos, see what you can do internally. For instance, you might have a graphic designer on staff who could help with illustrations, or maybe you can work with your organization's videographer to film. Sometimes you have people and resources that you can make work. I also wanted to share 3 mindsets to avoid. The first one is we can just fix it in editing. So if you're filming, you want to set yourself up to get everything you need during filming. And what I mean by that is to make sure you have good lighting, good audio, the camera is focused, and you just capture everything you need to the best that you can. Eliminate as many surprises as possible and don't depend on fixing things in editing, such as, oh, maybe you can just fix someone's hair in editing or change the lighting or sharpen the image, do a bunch of editing to the audio. The more you have to fix or tinker with stuff, it will take away quality from the video file. It can also take a huge amount of time on your end. And if you've hired someone, that could be extra hours you have to pay for. The next mindset to avoid is we need the newest technology and specs. Sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in getting the newest or the best equipment for video. But remember, those are just tools you can use to create the content. Yes, sometimes different cameras or lights can be easier or better to work with. But what matters the most is how you or whoever you work with uses the video tools. Now, a caveat to this is when it comes to computer technology and video editing. That's something where newer or more updated technology can be particularly helpful. Computers can impact how smoothly, quickly, or slow the editing process goes. So for an editing computer, that's something where the newer and better and generally specific specs can make a big difference. Lastly, the final mindset to avoid is let's put music in the entire video. A lot of people, when first creating videos, feel like it should have music in the background. Sometimes this is the case and music is a good fit for a video, but I would strongly suggest using music sparingly, especially for patient education content. Now, if you're creating like a welcome to our organization video, that's an overview of services, something like that, music could be okay. But if it's a video explaining, say, like the side effects of a medicine or a how-to demo, music throughout the video will likely be distracting. And using music in general in a video is kind of an art in itself. So it should be used very strategically, and I think often sparingly for this type of content. I also wanted to briefly talk about working with subject matter experts on video projects. The first thing you want to do when working with an SME on the project is to figure out their role. What do you want or need from them? What specifically are you looking for them to be involved with? Again, setting clear expectations is very important. Make it clear how you're thinking the SME will be involved. Get their feedback about what you're thinking. If there are deadlines or timelines to share for the project, do this at the beginning so the SME is aware. Also make the video production process as clear as possible. Take time to briefly go over the stages of production so they have an understanding. This can help manage expectations, and it's always good in general for people to have a fuller understanding of the project they're working on. You can create a project chart or timeline or some sort of schedule to share with the SME that also outlines the big parts of the video production process. I'll show you an example of one on the next slide. And lastly, if you're working on the script or storyboard with SMEs, there may be a lot of back and forth. This is normal, and you really want this back and forth to be happening during the pre-production and scripting phase. Your goal is to basically lock the script before filming and editing. Locking the script means no more changes. Make sure everyone who needs to review content has done so during scripting or storyboarding, especially if it will be hard to make revisions during editing. Once you are editing the project, it can be hard to go back and make changes. It can take time and money, and but throughout the production process, your goal is to be prepared and efficient so each phase goes smoothly. And by the time you reach editing, you can focus on just editing and not have to go back and redo things. So this is an example of a project task and timeline chart. It highlights key project points while explaining the 3 stages of production. I see this as mainly for the SME or other people involved in a project. There are a lot more details that need to be checked off if you're managing or producing the video. So you don't have to include a ton of detail for this type of thing. The purpose is really so someone unfamiliar with video has a clearer understanding of the major things involved in each stage of production, who is primarily responsible for that task, and the date that the task needs to be completed. So lastly, I wanted to share a few ways you can grow your video skills. First, sometimes you can take classes. Adobe video programs are the industry standard for video editing. So if you end up using those programs, sometimes Adobe does offer classes that you can take and learn from. You can also check to see if your organization does tuition reimbursement or pays for professional development, and if taking a production or editing class might be covered. These classes are offered at film institutes, community colleges, and universities. There are also some great online learning opportunities. Lynda.com is really good for learning video editing programs. They may also have some videography learning tutorials as well. You can also learn a ton on YouTube or video production forums that are online, such as Creative Cow. You can also shadow or collaborate with people in other departments. You can learn from them. Maybe they can help you with projects as well. So again, kind of looking into those internal resources can be really helpful. And sometimes it's also just good to jump in, start doing projects, make mistakes, have successes, and learn along the way. So that's the end of this presentation. So thank you so much for watching, and feel free to reach out if you have any comments or questions.